Hello, music fans. Welcome to another one of my What's New 2023 segments where I talk about new music that came out in the metal, rock, and progressive music worlds. Today I'm going to talk about 8 albums that came out over the past week, and I'll talk about them as usual in my order of preference, starting with Obliviscaris and their album Exul. This is extreme progressive metal. It's the 4th album by this Australian band, and this band is just amazing. This was one of my top 5 most anticipated albums of the first quarter of 2023. If you're a fan of bands like An Abstract Illusion, Persephone, and Wilderun, you'll like this. Obliviscaris brings the brutality, but they also bring the beauty. They feature extreme harsh vocals, but also clean singing and violin. All 4 of their albums are masterpieces, so it's hard to say right now where this ranks for me among their albums because they're all so close. Even their EPs are really great, and I'll be seeing them live later this year, and I'm really looking forward to it. Next, I want to talk about an album from August Burns Red called Death Below. This is Metalcore. It's the 10th album by these American metalcore giants. I like everything they've done. But they've never quite cracked my top 200 favorite bands or anything like that. You know me, I like to make lists and making lists of my favorite albums all the time, my favorite bands, and I keep an ordered list. They never quite crack that getting into my A list. But this album, it continues their streak of solid albums. It's probably my favorite of theirs actually, but hard to say as well. I was surprised to hear a lot of blast beats on this album and parts with violin as well, which almost made me feel like I was still listening to the Obliviscaris album. There was also some good melodic clean singing parts. I wish they did more of the clean singing parts. Some of them were guest vocalists that they brought in, like Jesse Leach from Killswitch Engage, who does a really good job on this. But I think they also one of the members of August Burns Red also does some occasional clean vocals. I wish they did that a little bit more. They rely quite a lot on harsh vocals and metalcore breakdowns, which they do really well, but it gets a little tiring by the end of the album. The guitar riffs, though, are always on point, really awesome playing from everyone in the band. Next, I'm going to talk about an EP from Ihsahn called Fascination Street Sessions. This is progressive black metal, and it's his 3rd solo EP. He's a Norwegian artist, and he's well known for his work in the black metal band called Emperor, as well as his 7 solo albums that are more on the progressive metal side than black metal, but they have some of that black metal aesthetic. The last song on this album is called Dom Andra and features Jonas Rensky of Catatonia, and it's a cover song of a Swedish band called Kent. I never heard the original song before, but I did enjoy this cover, so maybe I'll check out the original. My favorite track on the album, though, is probably Contorted Monuments. Well, there's only 3 tracks, and they're all really good. Next, I want to talk about another EP from a band called Exploring Birdsong called Dancing in the Face of Danger. And this is progressive rock with some art rock and maybe some pop influences as well. It's a piano-driven prog rock trio from the UK. They've got powerful female vocals delivered by Lindsay Ward, who also plays the keyboards, and her vocals are really strong. I love how it's all catchy and accessible. It sounds like it could be radio pop music or music you could put on around your normal friends who don't like prog music or weird music. You could put this on at a party, play it around your parents or elderly relatives, and it probably wouldn't offend anyone, but there's still really cool stuff going on. There's atypical song structures, odd time signatures, awesome riffs, chord progressions going on that can keep a prog fan's mind stimulated. Next, I want to talk about an album made by my good friend Nick Frenette. He goes by Nick D. Frenette on Spotify, so definitely look him up there. And he released a great album called Spacebound, The Search for Stardust. And this is art rock, but it's got a lot of range and a lot of influences from different genres. There's some psychedelic vibes in here, some electronic moments. There's one track that has some hip hop influences, some alternative and space rock influences thrown in here. I think Prog fans could like this because it feels like it's a concept album. While it's not true prog like the typical stuff that I listen to, it's got hints of that too. This is his third album, and yeah, we used to be in a band together. I used to play with him in a band called Lanky, which mostly had an alternative rock sound. And actually before that, we originally recorded some songs as a duo, and we were called Situational Irony. Unfortunately, we live far away from each other now, so collaborating on music is much harder, but I've been listening to every solo album he puts out. I describe his vocal sound as a mixture of Jeff Martin from The Tea Party, David Bowie, and Johnny Cash, so check it out if you like the sound of that. His music typically has that artsy alternative rock sound with those psychedelic aspects sprinkled in, but his influences range from other genres. Sometimes I hear even almost punk rock and power pop sounding things. This album flows like a concept album, though I do have to be honest, I didn't pay close enough attention to understand if it's a full narrative story from start to beginning. There do seem to be moments with a narrator. It sounds like it's supposed to be this computerized AI female voice of the spaceship talking to the main character, which reminds me a lot of how the band Coheed and Cambria does a similar thing in their albums with the character that they call Allmother. So maybe Coheed and Cambria fans would like this as well. And I was surprised to hear those hip hop moments in the second track, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised with Nick because you could always expect some variety and twists and turns. He does a cover of Across the Universe by the Beatles on this album, but it's more electronic, spaced out, psychedelic version of the song. Now, Nick's been a great musician for as long as I've known him. He just keeps getting better. In particular, his songwriting, production, instrumental performances on this album are among the best he's ever done. When I played with him, he was more of a singer at the time who dabbled in instruments like guitar, piano, and drums and harmonica, but he seems to have mastered the instruments he's using a lot more now. Like I never would have imagined him making a super compelling instrumental track back in the day, but one of my favorite tracks on this album is the album closer called Rest, which is instrumental and has beautiful atmospheric synth sounds, nice guitar playing with great tone, awesome slide guitar. Another favorite song is Planet Side. I really like the funky bass and vocal harmonies on that one. It looks like that features another old friend of mine named Eric. So everyone check this out because Nick D. Frenette, he deserves some more attention, deserves to be more well known. This is great work from him. Next, I want to talk about an album from a band called Keep of Kalessin, and the album's called Katharsis. This is melodic black metal with death metal influences. It's the 7th album by this Norwegian band that started out more in the black metal scene but evolved their sound into more of a melodic death metal direction. And I heard the title track of this. It was released as a single before the album. It has really fast drums, lots of double kick, cool melodic guitar leads, intense brutal vocals, but also some melodic singing vocals. It reminded me of Soilwork a bit, so check this out if you're a fan of them, but want something a little darker than Soilwork and having some more black metal sounds sprinkled in. I've got 2 more to talk about. The next one's an EP by the band Big Wreck, and it's called 7.3. This is alternative rock. It's got some progressive blues and grunge influences. It's a very catchy rock that's pretty much ready for radio. Lots of emotion on here, really well performed. If you're a fan of bands like Creed and Alter Bridge, I think you'll like this. And lastly, I want to talk about Babymetal and their album The Other One. Now this is kind of like power metal, but lots of pop influences in there as well, specifically J-pop, Japanese pop, and they call this genre, I don't know if this is a real genre, but they call it Kawaii metal. Maybe it's recognized as a genre by some people now. That's what I've heard it called. And this is the 4th album from this Japanese band. I feel like their music is more of a meme than being a real band at this point, and it's kind of like this manufactured pop but metal thing all at the same time. But it is very catchy and interesting, so I want to check this out. And yeah, maybe this is just what happens when young women who maybe couldn't make it big in the J-pop scene, they team up with a metal band, and then they got even bigger than they ever could have imagined. So check this out if you like the idea of hearing something that sounds a bit like Japanese anime theme music, but with sick metal riffs and young female Japanese singers over top of it. While the musicianship, performances, and production on this album are solid, I'm still having a hard time taking this sound seriously, and maybe that's my fault. I might come back to it for a laugh from time to time, but probably won't revisit this too much, even though there's a part of me that really likes this. That's it for my first impressions on 8 new albums that came out over the past week. Hope you found something in this list that is appealing to you, and check it out. Let me know if you heard any other great metal, rock, progressive albums that came out recently that I might enjoy, that I might have missed, or really any genre, something that you think would be up my alley. Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned for next time. Peace out.